Ho ho hello! Thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and welcome back to day 3 of my Fave 5 series, and welcome back to Bookmas. Today I'm going to share with you my 5 favorite fantasy books of 2024. Now, these are going to be different than my Fave 5 fantasy romance because I read a lot of fantasy romance and I read a little bit of fantasy. So these fantasies might have some romantic element to them, but I feel like they're more heavy on the fantasy than the romance. Some of them might be cozy fantasy, some of them might be historical fantasy, but they're more so fantasy than fantasy romance. My 5th favorite fantasy of the year was A Swift and Savage Tide by Chloe Neal. This is the 2nd book in the Kit Brightling duology. This is set in like a historic Great Britain. Not predominantly, like I think it's just mentioned. You could pretty much set this anywhere and I think it would still fit the vibes. But in this, we are following a female ship captain who has an affinity for water, and so her ship is always doing very well, and everybody is jealous of the fact that her ship does really well. And she is set out on a mission by the queen to track down this man who has betrayed the kingdom. And she's all fine with this until like a retired Navy man ends up coming on her ship and trying to tell her how to do her job. They end up having to work together, forced proximity, and in doing so they realize that they both have talents that the other needs for this mission. And then in the 2nd book, it is continuing the journey from that plot that I just gave you from the 1st book. I can't really tell you what this one is about without spoiling the 1st one, so I just gave you the synopsis of the 1st one. But I loved this seafaring adventure. I loved that Kit is a very smart, savvy ship captain. I liked the very, very sweet romance that is included in here. It's not a prominent point in the story, but it just added enough romance for my liking as somebody who reads romance. My 4th favorite fantasy of the year is The Housewitch by Delamock. This is a book that I picked for the Black Hat Book Coven this year. I wouldn't really say this is a cozy fantasy because on the live show, Kristin did bring up a great point that this deals with some pretty heavy subject matters, but I think like the vibe and atmosphere of it gives that cozy quality. But in this, we're following Finn, who is a male house witch. He has this affinity to be able to protect things that he considers his home, and he is trying to escape his past, and he takes a job as the house witch to the king and queen of this empire. And he doesn't want anybody to know that he is a house witch. He just wants to do his job, make his food, and live a peaceful, unproblematic life. But things start happening that require him to use his abilities to protect not only the house, but the people who are residing in it, who he is becoming attached to. It is a bit of a slower moving story, which I feel is where it will lose a lot of people, but I just liked the day-to-day lifestyle in this. There is a cat, like, gang in here. That was Kristin's favorite part of the book. My 3rd favorite fantasy of the year was a reread for me, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is a gothic fantasy following Elspeth Spindle, who, when she was younger, she touched a tarot card and it pulled in this monster to her brain. So she has like a little inner demon who comes out to protect her. She has the ability to be able to locate tarot cards, so she ends up teaming up with this rebellion group to try and track down all these tarot cards to rid the kingdom that she lives in of this curse. I loved the tarot card magic in here. I liked the dark gothic fields. I loved Elspeth's character. I liked the little bit of romance that was in here. And on the 2nd time reading this, I actually enjoyed it a little bit more because I was listening to the audiobook. And because I knew what was happening, it allowed me to, like, pay more attention to the little things that I overlooked the first time. My 2nd favorite fantasy was Shardless by Stephanie Fisher. This is a fantasy I stumbled upon because I was looking for friends to lovers fantasy romance, and this came up. And when I saw it was on Everand as an audiobook, I thought I would give it a try, and I really enjoyed this. I think it is a really, really underrated fae fantasy. It, once again, does have a little bit of a romantic undertone to it because we are following these 2 characters who grew up together, who are best friends, and they are trying to team up to locate something together, and through them being forced together more often, they discover that they are attracted to each other. I think if you like fae fantasies without all the heavy smut involved, you should definitely read this story because it is really unique in the Fae aspect. It sort of melds like technology and magic, and I think more people need to read this. And my number one favorite fantasy of the year was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Thirst. Now this is a cozy fantasy. In this, we are following a woman who is a librarian for the magical books in this kingdom, but during a rebellion when people attack this library, she takes it upon herself to collect as many books as she can and flee to safety so that these magical tomes don't get damaged. So with the help of her spider plant friend, they flee to her childhood home island to just lay low, stay under the radar, and try and protect these books without anybody knowing. Because if she is found out to have these books outside of the library and the capital, she could be in trouble. So she goes back to her childhood cottage, and there she catches the eye of this infatuated man who remembers her as a child and who was besotted with her, but she doesn't remember him. And she's a bit of a grump. So it's Grumpy Sunshine, where she's the grump and he's the sunshine. And she's finding it difficult to lay low in this island because people need help with certain things, and she is able to cast spells and potions and things like that that will help them. And she discovers that she wants to be a part of this found family community that she never had before. And it is just so stinking cute. I loved everything about this. My only problem with it was it didn't have enough damn romance in it for me. But I loved the whimsy. I loved all the magical creatures. I loved the community that embraced her. I loved how grumpy she was. Although, again, there were some times when I thought she was just a little too grumpy. But this was so freaking adorable. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Favorite fantasy of the year. So those were my top 5 favorite fantasies of 2024. Let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these, or what was your favorite fantasy of the year? But if you don't want to comment that, but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a dragon emoji? Which doesn't really fit because I don't think a single one of these books had dragons in it. But oh well, leave it anyway. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next Fave 5 video, I hope you read a fantastic fantasy book in 2025. Bye!